Commander Velthar limped into the great hall of the Galactic Council. His 3 remaining legs clicked against the smooth crystal floor. The sound echoed in the huge room filled with representatives from dozens of alien worlds. Each step reminded him of the leg he lost on a small planet at the edge of the galaxy. The hall was beautiful. Light danced through the walls made of living crystal. Hundreds of different alien species sat in floating chairs that moved through the air. Some had many arms, others had tentacles, and a few looked like walking trees. But they all had one thing in common. They thought they knew everything about war. Velthar stopped in the center of the hall. His scarred face showed the pain of old wounds. The translator device around his neck hummed as it prepared to change his words into sounds the other aliens could understand. "I come to warn you about a world called Earth," Velthar said. His voice was rough and broken. "The creatures there are different from anything we have seen before." High Counselor Mordex floated down from his high seat. His crystal body reflected the light in rainbow colors. He was tall and proud like all his people. The Zentarians had ruled part of the galaxy for thousands of years. They believed some species were better than others. "Commander," Mordex said with a laugh, "you speak of a primitive world. These humans barely know how to travel between stars. What could they possibly do to threaten us?" Ambassador Yixtal joined the conversation. Her metal face showed no emotion, but her eyes glowed with amusement. The Vorthans were known for their cold logic and perfect planning. They had conquered 40 worlds without losing a single battle. "The humans have no energy shields," Yixtal said. "Their weapons shoot metal bullets instead of plasma beams. Their ships move slowly with chemical rockets. How can such backward creatures be dangerous?" Velthar closed his eyes and remembered. The memories hurt more than his missing leg. "I was part of a small force sent to claim a mining world. The humans had built a colony there. We thought it would be easy. Send a message, demand they leave, and if they refused, we would make them go." The hall became quiet. Even the floating chairs stopped moving. Other council members moved closer to hear the story. "There were only 200 humans on that world," Velthar continued. "We had 5 ships and 1,000 soldiers. The fight should have lasted minutes. Instead, it lasted 3 days." Mordex laughed again, but it sounded forced. 200 primitives held off 1,000 trained soldiers? Impossible. "They did not fight like any species we know," Velthar said. His voice became quieter, but everyone could still hear him. "When we landed, they did not run. They did not surrender. They looked at us with cold eyes and started shooting." Velthar touched the deep scar across his face. "Our armor was better. Our weapons were stronger. Our shields protected us from their metal bullets. But it did not matter. They kept coming." The council members started to whisper among themselves. Some looked worried, but most still seemed doubtful. "The first human I killed took 17 plasma shots to stop," Velthar said. "He kept shooting even with holes burned through his body. When he finally fell, another human picked up his weapon and kept fighting." Ambassador Yixtal made a sound like metal scraping. "Fear and desperation make creatures do strange things. Once they realized they could not win, surely they gave up." "That is what I thought too," Velthar replied. "But they did not give up. On the second day, they started using our own weapons against us. Somehow they had learned to operate Catharian plasma rifles and Vorthon shield generators." A Thraxian counselor spoke up. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "How could primitives understand our technology so quickly?" "I do not know," Velthar said. "But I watched a human female figure out how to use a quantum destabilizer in less than an hour. She had never seen one before. Then she used it to bring down one of our ships." The whispers in the hall grew louder. Some council members looked at each other with concern. Mordex raised his hand for silence. "Even if this story is true, it proves nothing. A few desperate humans got lucky. That does not make their entire species dangerous." Velthar stared at the High Counselor with his one remaining eye. "On the 3rd day, we had them surrounded. Only 30 humans were left alive. We offered them one last chance to surrender. Do you know what their leader said?" The hall was completely silent now. "She said they would rather die than be slaves. Then she smiled and triggered a bomb that destroyed half our landing force." Velthar's voice shook with the memory. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was that she looked happy to do it. Several council members moved uncomfortably in their floating chairs. The idea of creatures who would choose death over surrender was frightening to most galactic species. "They fight like they have nothing to lose," Velthar continued. "But more than that, they fight like losing is not possible. Every human who dies makes the others more dangerous, not less. Ambassador Yixtal's glowing eyes dimmed. You are saying that defeat makes them stronger. I am saying that they do not understand defeat, Velthar replied. To them, there is only victory or death. Nothing in between. Mordex floated higher above the hall. Even if your story is true, it changes nothing. One small mining world is very different from their home planet. We would send a proper invasion force with overwhelming numbers. Numbers do not matter to them, Velthar said. I have studied their history since that day. They have been fighting wars against each other for thousands of years. They know every way to kill that exists, and they keep inventing new ones. A young counselor from the Nexari species spoke up. Surely their home government would be more reasonable than desperate colonists. Velthar laughed, but there was no joy in the sound. Their government? Their military? Young one, they are all the same. Every human is a soldier waiting to happen. I have seen their entertainment programs. They make stories about war for fun. The hall erupted in laughter from dozens of different species. The idea seemed ridiculous to most of them. Commander Velthar, Mordex said with a patronizing tone, you have been through a difficult experience. Perhaps you should rest and recover before making such wild claims. But Velthar was not finished. I warn you all, if you try to conquer Earth, you will regret it. The humans will not fight the war you expect. They will not follow the rules of civilized warfare. They will turn their entire world into a weapon and point it at us. The laughter died down, but most of the council members still looked amused rather than concerned. Ambassador Yixtal checked her data tablet. According to our scouts, Earth has 12 spaceships and a population of 8 billion. Even if every human was a warrior, which is impossible, we could defeat them easily. You do not understand, Velthar said desperately. It is not about numbers or weapons. It is about what they become when they fight. They stop being individuals and become something else, something that makes death itself hesitate. The council took a vote. Only 3 members voted to leave Earth alone. The rest voted to begin what they called integration, protocols. It was a polite way of saying they would conquer the planet and make the humans serve the Galactic Empire. As the council members floated away to plan their invasion, Velthar stood alone in the Great Hall. He had tried to warn them, but they would not listen. Soon, they would learn the truth about Earth's warriors. He only hoped some of them would survive the lesson. Dr. Wu Jin adjusted his translation device one more time. His hands shook slightly as he checked the equipment. This was humanity's first real contact with aliens, and everything had to be perfect. The meeting was taking place in the main dome of Luna Base Alpha, humanity's largest settlement on the moon. Remember, Colonel Taemin said through the radio, we are here to talk, not fight. But if things go wrong, get behind the blast shields immediately. Wu Jin nodded, even though the colonel could not see him. Through the dome's clear walls, he could see the alien ships hanging in space above the moon. 50 massive vessels that made Earth's small defense fleet look like toys. The largest ship was the size of a city. The alien shuttle landed outside the base with a soft thud. No sound reached them through the airless space, but Wu Jin felt the vibration through the floor. A door opened in the shuttle's side, and 3 figures walked out. The leader was tall and covered in what looked like living crystal. Behind him walked a creature with too many arms and a face full of sharp teeth. The third alien looked like a giant insect standing on 2 legs. They entered the base through the airlock. Wu Jin stepped forward and bowed politely as he had practiced many times. Welcome to Luna Base Alpha, he said. The translation device turned his words into sounds the aliens could understand. I am Dr. Wu Jin, representing the people of Earth. The crystal alien spoke first. His voice was cold and proud. I am Fleet Admiral Zorthak of the Galactic Council. We come to offer your species membership in our great civilization. Wu Jin smiled with relief. This sounded like good news. We are honored by your offer. What would membership require? Simple, Admiral Zorthak replied. Your species will surrender all military forces to our command. Your governments will be replaced by council-approved administrators. Your people will serve wherever the galaxy needs workers. The smile disappeared from Wu Jin's face. You are asking us to become slaves. Slaves is such an ugly word, the many-armed alien said. Think of it as finding your proper place in the galactic order. Some species are meant to rule, others are meant to serve. Colonel Taemin's voice came through the radio, angry and sharp. Wu Jin, tell them we refuse. Wu Jin took a deep breath. Honored Admiral, the people of Earth must decline your offer. We wish to remain free and independent. Admiral Zorthak made a sound like breaking glass. That is unfortunate. We had hoped you would be reasonable. He turned to look out at the Earth hanging in the black sky. Perhaps a demonstration will help you understand. The insect alien touched a device on its arm. A beam of pure energy shot down from one of the ships in orbit. It struck the far side of Luna Base Alpha with incredible force. The entire moon shook and alarms started screaming throughout the base. Section 7 is gone, a voice reported over the radio. 200 people were in that section. Wu Jin stared at the aliens in horror. You murdered innocent people. We removed an obstacle to understanding, Admiral Zorthak said calmly. Now will you reconsider our generous offer? High above the moon, Captain Bora sat in the cockpit of her fighter ship. She had been watching the meeting through her ship's cameras. When the aliens destroyed part of the base, something cold and terrible woke up inside her chest. All fighters, this is Dragon Leader, she said into her radio. Her voice was steady, but her hands were already moving over her weapons controls. The talks have failed. Weapons free. I repeat, weapons free. Dragon Leader, this is Command, came the reply from Earth. You are outnumbered 50-1. Fall back to Earth orbit. Negative, Command, Bora replied. They just killed 200 of our people. No one gets away with that. She pushed her ship's engines to full power. The chemical rockets were old technology compared to the alien ships, but they still worked. Behind her, 11 other human fighters followed her lead. The aliens were not expecting an attack. Their ships hung in space like sleeping giants, confident in their superiority. They had energy shields that could stop any weapon the humans possessed. Or so they thought. Bora had studied the alien technology during the approach. Their shields were designed to stop energy weapons and explosive missiles. But they had a weakness. Physical objects moving fast enough could punch through them. All fighters switched to kinetic rounds, she ordered. Aim for their weapon systems. Make every shot count. The human fighters opened fire with weapons that shot solid metal slugs at incredible speed. The aliens' energy shields flickered and failed as the physical projectiles tore through them. Explosions bloomed along the sides of 3 alien cruisers. Impossible. Admiral Zorthak shouted as alarms filled his ship's bridge. How are their primitive weapons penetrating our shields? Captain Bora's fighter dove between 2 alien ships, her weapons blazing. She could see the enemy trying to turn their massive guns toward her small ship. But she was too fast and too close. Her metal bullets punched holes in their hull. Dragon 3 is hit. Someone screamed over the radio. Bora saw one of her pilot's ships explode in a ball of fire. The aliens were starting to fight back. All fighters attack pattern Delta, she ordered. Use the asteroids for cover. The human ships scattered like angry hornets, using the rocks floating around the moon to hide from the alien weapons. They would dart out, fire their guns, and disappear again before the aliens could target them. Admiral. Zorthak watched his ships take damage and felt something he had not experienced in decades, fear. These humans were not fighting like any species he knew. They were not trying to win a proper space battle. They were conducting what could only be called a guerrilla attack. Sir, his weapons officer reported, we have lost 3 cruisers and the carrier Mighty Fist is badly damaged. How many enemy ships have we destroyed? 4 confirmed kills, sir. Zorthak's crystal face turned dark. He was losing ships at a rate of 3 to 4. Against primitives with chemical rockets. The Galactic Council would never let him live this down. All ships prepare to jump to hyperspace, he ordered. We are withdrawing. Back on Luna Base Alpha, Dr. Wu Jin watched the alien ships disappear into streaks of light. The aliens were running away. Humanity's tiny fleet had made them run away. Colonel Taemin's voice came through the radio, filled with amazement. Outstanding work, Dragon Squadron. Return to base for debriefing. But Captain Bora was not feeling victorious. She was looking at the wreckage of Luna Base Alpha and thinking about the 200 people who had died. The aliens had started this fight by murdering innocents. In her mind, that changed everything. Dragon Leader to Earth Command, she said. Request permission to pursue fleeing enemy vessels. Negative, Dragon Leader. Return to base immediately. Bora gritted her teeth but followed orders. She would return to base. But this was not over. Not by a long way. On Earth, General Haye Jin stood in the Seoul Command Center, watching reports flood in from around the world. The first alien contact had been a disaster, but it had also been a lesson. The aliens were strong, but they could be hurt. More importantly, they thought like civilized beings who followed rules. "General," her aide reported, "we are receiving similar offers of membership from alien fleets approaching 12 other major cities." General Hai-Jin smiled, but it was not a happy expression. "Send the same response to all of them. Tell them that Earth rejects their offer, and prepare all defense forces for immediate action." She looked up at the displays showing Earth's military assets. 12 spaceships against hundreds of alien vessels. On paper, it looked hopeless. But General Hai-Jin had spent her career studying warfare, and she knew something the aliens did not understand yet. Humans did not fight wars to follow rules or look honorable. They fought wars to win, and they would use any method, any weapon, any tactic that brought victory. The aliens were about to learn that the hard way. In space, Admiral Zorthak's fleet regrouped beyond Earth's orbit. He stared at the small blue planet and tried to understand what had happened. His overwhelming force had been damaged by a handful of primitive fighters. "Send a message to the Galactic Council," he ordered. "Tell them we may have underestimated these humans. Request immediate reinforcement of our fleet." He did not yet realize that his message would reach the Council too late. The humans were already preparing for war, and they had no intention of fighting it the way the aliens expected. War Marshal Crixton stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying the holographic display of the Sol system. The old warrior had been called out of retirement to handle what the Galactic Council now called the Earth problem. His forearms moved across the control panels as he reviewed the deployment of his massive fleet. 500 ships hung in space at the edge of Earth's solar system. 2 million soldiers from a dozen different worlds waited in the troop ships. Crixton had conquered 47 worlds in his long career. He had never lost a single battle. "Marshal," his aide reported, "the Council is asking for your assessment of the human threat level." Crixton's mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among his people. "Threat level? They are primitives with chemical rockets. The only threat is that this campaign might be too boring." What the War Marshal did not know was that Lieutenant Jiwoo was listening to every word he said. The young human intelligence officer floated in a stolen alien stealth suit just outside the flagship's hull. For 3 weeks, she had been moving through the alien fleet, learning their plans and studying their weaknesses. Jiwoo had volunteered for this mission, knowing she would probably never return to Earth. Her job was to gather information and send it back to human command, even if it cost her life. She had already learned things that terrified and excited her. The aliens thought war was a civilized activity. They had rules about which targets were acceptable and which weapons could be used. They believed in honor and proper military conduct. They fought to win territory and resources, not to destroy their enemies completely. Humans, Jiwoo knew, had very different ideas about war. She activated her quantum transmitter and sent another data burst toward Earth. The message contained ship layouts, weapon specifications, and most importantly, the aliens' battle plans. They intended to surround Earth and demand surrender. If the humans refused, they would attack military targets only, avoiding civilian areas. "How noble of them," Jiwoo whispered to herself as she moved to her next target. Back on Earth, Major Subin received Jiwoo's intelligence reports in an underground bunker beneath the mountains of Korea. The data confirmed what human strategists had suspected. The aliens were powerful but predictable. They followed standard military doctrine that had not changed in thousands of years. "They think this is going to be a normal war," Subin told her team of special operations soldiers. "They expect us to line up our ships and fight them in open space like civilized beings." Sergeant Nam-il, a veteran of Earth Special Forces, raised his hand. "What are we going to do instead?" Subin smiled grimly as she activated a holographic display of the solar system. "We are going to turn our entire solar system into a trap. And when they spring it, they will learn why humans are different from every other species they have conquered." The plan was already in motion. For months, human engineers had been working in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. They were not building new ships to fight the alien fleet. Instead, they were building something the aliens would never expect. Admiral Daeho floated in his command ship hidden among the asteroids. Around him, dozens of human vessels waited in silence. These were not warships in the traditional sense. They were delivery systems designed for one purpose: getting human soldiers onto alien vessels. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving the final intelligence update from Lieutenant Jiwoo. She has identified the alien command ship and mapped its internal layout." Daeho nodded. Jiwoo's sacrifice would not be wasted. The information she had gathered would save thousands of human lives in the coming battle. Each ship in Daeho's hidden fleet was built around a simple concept. It could ram through an alien energy shield and stick to the enemy hull like a parasite. Then human soldiers would cut their way inside and fight the aliens in the corridors of their own ships. The aliens had shields that could stop energy weapons and explosive missiles. But they had never faced an enemy that would deliberately crash ships into them and then continue fighting inside their vessels. War Marshal Crixton finally gave the order to advance. His massive fleet moved toward Earth like a slow avalanche of metal and death. The alien ships formed perfect battle formations, their weapons charged and ready. "Sir," his sensor officer reported, "we are detecting the human defense fleet. 12 small vessels moving to intercept us." Crixton examined the tactical display. The human ships were arranged in a line between his fleet and Earth. It was exactly what he had expected. A desperate last stand by inferior forces. "All ships prepare for battle," he ordered. "We will destroy their fleet quickly and then accept their surrender." But as the alien fleet closed in on the human ships, something unexpected happened. The human vessels did not open fire. Instead, they suddenly scattered in all directions, disappearing among the asteroids. "Where did they go?" Crixton demanded. His answer came in the form of explosions throughout his fleet. Hidden among the asteroids, dozens of human ships suddenly activated their engines and shot toward the alien vessels. But these ships were not firing weapons. They were aiming to ram. "All ships, evasive action," Crixton shouted, but it was too late. The first human ship struck the alien cruiser Dominator amidships. The human vessel's reinforced hull punched through the energy shields like they were not there. Instead of exploding on impact, the human ship stuck to the alien hull like a tick on a dog. Admiral Daeho felt his ship shake as it rammed into the side of an alien destroyer. Around him, his crew was already moving toward the airlocks, carrying cutting tools and weapons. They had practiced this maneuver hundreds of times. "Boarding teams, go," Daeho ordered. Human soldiers poured out of their damaged ships and began cutting holes in the alien hulls. They wore armored spacesuits and carried a mixture of human and captured alien weapons. Most importantly, they carried something no alien species had ever brought to war: the absolute determination to win at any cost. War Marshal Crixton watched in horror as his ships reported boarding actions throughout the fleet. "How are they penetrating our shields?" he demanded. "Sir, they are not trying to penetrate them," his weapons officer replied. "They are flying through them at ramming speed. Their ships are designed to survive the impact." On the alien cruiser Mighty Thunder, Captain Minho led his boarding team through the corridors of the enemy ship. The aliens inside were not prepared for close combat. Their weapons were designed for space battles, not fighting in narrow hallways. "Remember," Minho told his team over the radio, "we are not here to capture this ship. We are here to make sure it cannot fight anymore." The human soldiers moved through the alien vessel like a virus, destroying critical systems and fighting any alien crew they encountered. They had studied the ship layouts provided by Lieutenant Jiwoo and knew exactly where to strike. The aliens fought back desperately, but they were not prepared for the kind of warfare the humans brought to them. These were not soldiers following rules of engagement. These were survivors who would use any method to eliminate their enemies. War Marshal Crixton realized his fleet was in serious trouble. 15 of his ships had been boarded, and more human ramming vessels were emerging from the asteroid belt. His perfect battle formation was falling apart. "All ships withdraw to minimum safe distance," he ordered. "We need to reassess the situation." But even as his fleet pulled back, Crixton knew the damage was done. The humans had turned a space battle into something completely different. They had brought ground warfare to the void of space, and his forces were not prepared for it. Lieutenant Jiwoo watched the battle from her hiding place on the alien flagship. She had accomplished her mission, but she knew she would not survive to see the end of the war. The aliens would find her eventually, but that was acceptable. She had helped her species land the first real blow against the Galactic Empire. The aliens now knew that humans would not fight by their rules. More importantly, they were beginning to understand that humans viewed war very differently than any species they had ever encountered. As the alien fleet regrouped, trying to understand what had happened to them, Jiwoo smiled and prepared her final transmission to Earth. The message was simple: Phase 1 complete. They are learning to fear us. The Galactic Fleet had superior numbers and technology, but they were discovering that war against humans was unlike anything they had experienced before. And this was just the beginning. The alien dropships fell toward Earth like burning stars. War Marshal Crixton had decided that boarding actions and space battles were too costly. If the humans wanted to fight dirty, he would bring the war to their home planet and crush them on the ground. Sergeant Yu Jin crouched in the ruins of what used to be downtown Seoul. Around her, the city had been transformed into a fortress. Every building was a bunker, every street was a kill zone, and every tunnel in the subway system had become a pathway for human soldiers to move unseen. Incoming dropships, Sector 7, her radio crackled. 200 alien soldiers, mixed species. Yu-Jin checked her weapon one more time. It was a captured alien plasma rifle, modified by human engineers to fire longer and hit harder. Her team had spent months learning to use enemy technology, turning the aliens' own weapons against them. All squads, remember the plan? She spoke into her radio. Let them land. Let them think they control the surface. Then we show them who really owns this city. The alien dropship touched down in what used to be a shopping district. The doors opened and out poured soldiers from 3 different worlds. They moved in perfect formation, their weapons ready, expecting to face desperate human defenders. Instead, they found empty streets and silent buildings. No resistance at all. Spread out and secure the area, ordered the alien commander, a tall creature with 6 arms and natural armor plating. The humans must be hiding in the buildings. What the aliens did not know was that Yu-Jin and her soldiers were not hiding in the buildings. They were hiding under them. The Seoul subway system had been turned into a vast underground fortress, complete with weapon caches, medical stations, and enough supplies to last for months. The aliens began searching the empty buildings, looking for human defenders who were not there. As they moved deeper into the city, Yu-Jin gave the signal. Now, she whispered into her radio. The street under the aliens' feet exploded upward. Human soldiers poured out of hidden tunnels, subway entrances, and storm drains. They emerged from manholes and basement windows, surrounding the alien force in seconds. The aliens tried to form a defensive circle, but Yu-Jin's team was already among them. This was not a battle between 2 armies meeting on an open field. This was urban warfare at its most brutal, with humans who knew every inch of their city fighting aliens who did not even know where they were. Yu-Jin put 3 plasma bolts into an alien's chest before rolling behind a concrete barrier. Around her, the sounds of close combat echoed through the streets. Humans and aliens fought with knives, clubs, and bare hands when their guns ran empty. Squad 4. They are trying to retreat to the landing zone, someone reported over the radio. Negative, Yu-Jin replied. No one gets back to their ships. We finish this here. High above the planet, Captain Minho was conducting his own war against the alien fleet. His ship, barely holding together after ramming an alien cruiser, had somehow managed to dock with the enemy vessel. Now he and his team were fighting their way toward the bridge. The alien corridors were filled with the bodies of both species. Minho's soldiers had taken heavy casualties, but they kept moving forward. Each room they captured brought them closer to their goal, taking control of an alien warship. Captain, one of his men called out, we have reached the main computer core. Minho smiled grimly. Download everything. Ship designs, weapon specs, tactical doctrine, fleet positions. We need to know how they think. The human soldiers connected their equipment to the alien computer system. Within minutes, they were copying thousands of files containing military secrets. This information would be transmitted back to Earth, where human engineers would use it to build better weapons and ships. But Minho was not finished. Set charges on the main reactor, he ordered. We are going to give our friends a surprise they will never forget. Meanwhile, in the emergency session of the Galactic Council, panic was beginning to set in. Commander Velthar stood before the assembled representatives, his warnings finally being taken seriously. 17 ships lost, Velthar reported. 43 more damaged. The human boarding teams are unlike anything we have ever faced. They do not try to capture our vessels. They destroy them from the inside. High Counselor Mordex's crystal body had lost its shine. His arrogance was replaced by growing fear. How is this possible? They are primitives with inferior technology. They are not fighting with technology, Velthar replied. They are fighting with something we do not understand. Every human soldier seems willing to die to complete their mission. They do not retreat. They do not surrender. They just keep fighting until we kill them or they kill us. Ambassador Yixtal's metal face showed signs of damage from a human attack on her home world. Sir, we are receiving reports of human operatives on 14 different council worlds. They are attacking our supply lines, communication centers, and civilian infrastructure. The council chamber erupted in shocked voices. The idea that the war had spread beyond Earth was terrifying to the assembled aliens. Back on Earth, President Jin stood in the deep underground bunker that served as humanity's wartime capital. The surface of the planet was a battlefield, but the war was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. "Ma'am," her military aide reported, "Operation Phoenix is ready for activation." President Jin looked at the authorization codes in her hand. Phoenix was humanity's ultimate backup plan. If Earth fell, sleeper agents on alien worlds throughout the galaxy would begin a campaign of destruction that would make the current war look like a minor disagreement. "Not yet," she said, "but prepare all Phoenix operatives for immediate activation. If we lose Earth, the aliens will learn that they have not conquered humanity. They have only made us angry." The reports coming in from around the planet painted a grim but inspiring picture. Human forces were fighting the aliens to a standstill in every major city. The enemy had superior numbers and technology, but humans had turned their entire world into a weapon. In London, human soldiers had flooded the underground tunnels, forcing the aliens to fight in the dark. In New York, skyscrapers had been rigged with explosives that brought entire buildings down on alien formations. In Tokyo, human engineers had weaponized the city's transportation system, turning bullet trains into guided missiles. The aliens were learning that conquering Earth was very different from conquering other worlds. Every human city was a fortress. Every human civilian was a potential soldier. Every building could become a bomb. War Marshal Crixton received the reports from the surface with growing horror. His ground forces were not conquering Earth. They were being consumed by it. The planet seemed to be fighting back like a living creature. "Sir," his aide reported, "we have lost contact with the landing force in Seoul. The human forces appear to have wiped them out completely." "Send reinforcements," Crixton ordered. "Sir, if we send more troops to the surface, we will not have enough ships to maintain orbital security." Crixton stared at the tactical display showing Earth. The small blue planet was covered in red marks indicating battles. His superior force was being bled to death by an enemy that refused to fight by the accepted rules of warfare. "Marshal," his communications officer called out urgently, "we are receiving a transmission from the captured cruiser Thunderstrike." On the main screen, Captain Minho's face appeared. His armor was damaged and blood ran down his cheek, but he was smiling. "Greetings," Minho said politely. "This is Captain Minho of the Earth Defense Force. I wanted to thank you for the loan of your ship. We have learned a great deal from it." Crixton could see alien bodies scattered behind the human captain. "You are in violation of all galactic warfare conventions," he said. Minho's smile widened. "We are not signers of your conventions. We fight by Earth rules now. And Earth rule number 1 is simple. We win, no matter what it costs." The screen went white as Captain Minho triggered the charges his team had planted throughout the alien ship. The cruiser Thunderstrike exploded like a small star, taking with it the human boarding team and enough alien technology to build a dozen new human warships. War Marshal Crixton realized that he was no longer fighting a war of conquest. He was fighting for the survival of his fleet, and possibly the survival of galactic civilization itself. The humans had shown that they would rather destroy everything than accept defeat, and the most terrifying part was that the war was far from over. Reports were coming in of human attacks on alien worlds throughout the galaxy. Somehow the humans had been planning for this war long before it started. The galaxy was about to learn that when humans said they would fight to the last man, they meant exactly that. And they had been preparing for a very long time. The Galactic Council chambers were no longer beautiful. Half the crystal walls lay in ruins, broken by explosions from human sabotage teams that had somehow penetrated the most secure location in the galaxy. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows across the faces of the surviving council members. High Counselor Mordex sat in his damaged floating chair, his crystal body cracked and dull. Around him, less than half of the original council remained alive. The others had died when human operatives had attacked their home worlds, or when their own fleets had been destroyed trying to defend against Earth's unexpected counterattacks. "The final reports," Mordex said, his voice barely a whisper. "How many worlds have we lost?" Ambassador Yixtal's metal face was scarred and her voice unit damaged, making her words sound broken. 15 worlds completely evacuated. 37 more under constant human attack. Our supply lines are cut. Our communication network is failing. The numbers were devastating, but they only told part of the story. The humans had not just fought a defensive war. They had carried the fight to every corner of the galaxy, turning what should have been a simple conquest into a nightmare that threatened the foundation of galactic civilization. Commander Velthar limped into the ruined chamber, supported by a mechanical walking device. His warnings had finally been proven right, but there was no satisfaction in his remaining eye. The cost of the Council's mistake was too high for anyone to feel victorious. "The Earth fleet has arrived in our system," he reported. "They are demanding our complete surrender." Through the broken dome above them, the Council members could see human warships hanging in space. These were not the primitive vessels that had first challenged the galactic fleet. These ships were built using captured alien technology, improved with human engineering, and crewed by soldiers who had learned to fight in the cold void of space. The largest ship was clearly the flagship. On its hull, written in letters large enough to read from the surface, were the words, "Remember Luna Base Alpha." It was a message that every alien in the galaxy now understood. Humans did not forget, and they did not forgive. On the surface of Earth, General He Jin walked through the ruins of Seoul. The city bore the scars of months of fighting, but it was still standing. More importantly, it was still human. The alien invasion had failed, broken against the determination of people who simply refused to be conquered. The cost had been terrible. 200 million humans had died in the fighting. Entire cities had been reduced to rubble. But Earth had survived, and in surviving, it had taught the galaxy a lesson that would be remembered for thousands of years. "General," her aide reported, "we are receiving surrender offers from 43 different alien species. They want separate peace agreements." He-Jin smiled, but it was a cold expression. "Tell them all the same thing. There is only one government they can surrender to now. The government of Earth. And the terms are non-negotiable." President Jin'e stood on the bridge of the human flagship as it approached the Galactic Council's space station. Around her, officers who had started the war commanding tiny fighters were now admirals in charge of captured alien dreadnoughts. The transformation had been remarkable and terrible. "Ma'am," the communications officer reported, "the Galactic Council is requesting permission to discuss terms." "Put them through," Jin'e ordered. High Counselor Mordex appeared on the main screen, his once proud form now broken and humbled. Behind him, the ruins of the council chambers served as a reminder of how completely their civilization had been shattered. "President Jin'e," Mordex said, his voice filled with defeat. We wish to discuss an end to this conflict." Jin'e looked at the alien leader with no expression of mercy. "There is nothing to discuss. You began this war by murdering our people. You continued it by trying to enslave our world. Now you will accept the consequences. What are your terms?" Mordex asked. "Complete and unconditional surrender of all galactic military forces. Recognition of Earth as a sovereign world with the right to defend itself by any means necessary. Reparations for the damage you have caused. And most importantly, a guarantee that no alien force will ever again threaten human beings." The silence that followed was deafening. These terms meant the end of the galactic empire that had existed for thousands of years. Earth, a world that had barely achieved interstellar travel a year ago, was now dictating terms to species that had ruled the galaxy since before humans learned to make fire. "And if we refuse?" Ambassador Yixtal asked. President Jin'e's expression did not change. "Then we continue this war until there is nothing left of your civilization to refuse. You have seen what we do to our enemies. We do not stop until they stop existing." The threat was not empty. Human fleets were already positioned around key alien worlds. Operation Phoenix had been partially activated, and human sabotage teams were ready to bring down the infrastructure of hundreds of civilizations. The galaxy faced a choice: surrender to Earth or face complete destruction. Commander Velthar spoke up from his position near the ruined council seats. "President Jin'e, may I ask you something?" "You may ask." "Why did your species fight so hard? You could have accepted our terms and lived as subjects of the Empire. Many species have found happiness in that role. Janae stared at the old warrior for a long moment before answering. Because we learned something long ago, Commander. Freedom is not something you can live without. The moment you accept slavery, even comfortable slavery, you stop being human. We would rather die as free beings than live as slaves. But the cost, Velthar said. The loss of life. The destruction. Surely peace would have been better. Peace. Ginny laughed, but there was no humor in the sound. You call slavery peace? You call the murder of innocents peace? Commander, you and your council never wanted peace. You wanted conquest. The only peace you offered was the peace of the grave or the peace of chains. She leaned forward, her eyes burning with an intensity that made even the veteran alien warrior step back. Let me tell you something about humans, Commander. We have been fighting wars for 5,000 years. We have fought each other, fought nature, fought every obstacle the universe has placed in front of us. And we have learned one simple truth. There are things worth dying for. Freedom is one of them. The formal surrender ceremony took place on Earth in the ruins of Luna Base Alpha, where the war had truly begun. Representatives from every surviving alien species came to witness the end of their empire and the birth of something new. General Haye-Jin watched. The alien delegations filed past the memorial wall that listed the names of everyone who had died in the war. The list was long, but each name represented someone who had chosen to fight rather than surrender. Do you think they understand now? Her aide asked. Haye-Jin considered the question as she watched High Counselor Mordex place his signature on the surrender documents. Some of them do. The smart ones, like Commander Velthar, they understand that we are not like other species. We do not fight for territory or resources. We fight for the right to exist as free beings. And the others? The others will learn, or they will not survive long enough for it to matter. President Jinneh signed the final document, officially ending the war that had started with laughter and ended with the transformation of the galaxy. Earth was no longer an isolated world on the rim of civilized space. It was the center of a new order, one built on the simple principle that some things were worth any sacrifice to protect. As the alien delegations departed, carrying news of humanity's victory back to their broken worlds, Commander Velthar approached President Jinneh one last time. I tried to warn them, he said simply. I know, Jinneh replied, but they would not listen. Now they know the price of underestimating Earth's warriors. Velthar nodded slowly. What happens now? Will you rule the galaxy as we did? Ginny looked out at the stars visible through the dome of the rebuilt Luna base. No, Commander. We will not rule the galaxy, but we will make sure that no one else rules it either. From now on, every species will be free to choose its own path. But if anyone tries to build another empire on the bones of the conquered, they will find that Earth remembers how to fight. The old alien warrior limped away, leaving the human president alone with her thoughts. The war was over, but its lessons would echo through the galaxy for generations to come. Humanity had been cautioned against. The aliens had laughed at the warnings, and now they understood the terrible price of their mistake. Earth's warriors had not just won a war. They had changed the very nature of galactic civilization. Never again would any species in the galaxy make the mistake of underestimating the small blue world on the rim of space. And never again would any alien look at a human and think they saw something weak or primitive. They had learned, at the cost of an empire, that some species could not be conquered. They could only be destroyed. And humanity had proven that they would choose mutual destruction over slavery every single time. The galaxy was a very different place now, and Earth's warriors stood ready to keep it that way.